Hey, Stone! It's time! With a loud noise, Xiaoyu, who was in a daze, woke up a little, but quickly rubbed his eyes and froze. What entered his eyes was a hut, which was a little dark, and the sunlight shone through the patterned glass, making him unable to open his eyes. Looking around, there is a low bed and a small desk, which are filled with all kinds of weird mechanical materials and tools. The walls are covered with mechanical drawings, all of which are hand-painted versions, which are a bit like Da Vinci's hand-painted manuscripts that I have seen on the internet before, densely packed, extremely precise and beautiful. In the center of the wall, an old-fashioned desk clock swayed its pendulum, making a hoarse mechanical sound. In the corner, there are also several old mechanical parts stacked, which can't seem to do anything. What the is this place? It's definitely not a colleague's house, let alone a small hotel. There is no TV here. No computer. Although this room is fairly neat and clean, it does not have any modern appliances. In addition to the secret mechanical drawings on the wall, as well as the strange carvings on the windows, the dim light gives people a strange old feeling. His memory is still stuck in the picture of himself staying up all night doing mechanical prototype design, and he can't remember how it appeared here. Stone, why are you sleeping in the afternoon? It's hard not to go to the mine today, and Xiaoki is back. We agreed to pick her up together. Squeak! Some old wooden doors were suddenly pushed open, and a strong young man broke in. He looked 17 or 18 years old, wearing a coarse cloth jacket, heavily worn boots with no visible undertones, and an odd hat, which at first glance looked like a character from an old European movie. Seeing him staring at the table in a daze, the young man shouted again, "Stone, it's actually fine, many people in the town are only 18 years old before they start level 2 perception. What am I dreaming about?" Xiaoyu frowned. Level 2 perception? What is this? Who is this dumb boy with a big voice? But he soon found out. As his eyes fell on the young man, a strange memory flooded in Xiaoyu's mind, and a lot of information poured in. The sturdy young man in front of him was called Su Qiang, and everyone in the mining town called him Qiangzi. Stone. Qiangzi felt that Stone was a bit strange today, and took 2 steps forward. Woo! The memory became clearer. It turns out that he is no longer a 28-year-old middle-aged doctoral student. Now this body is only 17 years old, and it seems to be a piece of waste that has not turned on level 2 perception. This should be, time traveled to hundreds of years ago? Is this unlucky ghost also called Xiaoyu? Wait. Turn on level 2 perception. What the is this? It's so hot today. Hey, Shishi, don't be in a daze. Qiangzi looked at him sitting on the bedside in a daze, and finally thought of something. You won't, is the headache still good? Well, I'm fine. He responded casually, but he was still digesting some unfamiliar and familiar information in his mind. The 2 memories were intertwined in my mind, and they settled down one by one, and I only felt a headache. Seeing that he was all right, Qiangzi didn't discuss with him at all, just pulled his sleeves and pulled him out, and said anxiously, "Didn't we talk to Xiaoki? We'll see you at 5 o'clock today under the big banyan tree at the town entrance, that's all." What time is it? Hurry up. This kid, not only has a loud voice, but is also a talker. According to the memory, the little chi in Qiangzi's mouth is called Xia Qi, the sister of the unlucky ghost, but a treasure of Lao Chen. She is beautiful and sensible. The key is that she turned on level 2 perception at the age of 14, and she is a little genius in the town. When Qiangzi saw that he finally got out of bed, he stretched out his hand to pull it up and ran out the door. Xiaoyu was a little speechless. "Hey, I'll change my shoes first." As he walked, more memory poured out, but he was a little more confused. Turn on the perception to use the energy organ. Origin energy is the source of power that can make the little bird fly, the dog run, and the shuttle gallop. No wonder he thinks things are strange in this room. He now knows that the source heat cooker next to the desk is a 1-star machine, used for cooking. Is also 1-star level. But these electrical appliances do not have wires, they all have a source box inside, and the source crystal can be put into work, which is called organization. So, the energy of this world is source energy. After a few steps, Xiaoyu was led by Qiangzi and trotted all the way to an open hall. Suddenly a small thing rushed over, and he was tripped. Looking down, it was a puppy made of wood. It was about a foot high, with a head, feet and a simple scrap of cloth tail. Run! Being hit by him like this, the little wooden dog was kicked and flew out, but it rolled and stood up again, but it stopped slowly before taking 2 steps. In front, a little old man in his early 50s, wearing a long gown covered with sawdust and iron slag, pulled up the little wooden dog, glanced at it and said, "Oh, are you running out of source crystals?" Then, he gently patted the little wooden dog on the forehead. With a light click, a piece of wood popped out of the little wooden dog's head. The old man took out a small box the size of a thumb, and then took out a small shiny pebble from his pocket and put it in, and slammed the piece of wood into it. The little wooden dog's 4 legs began to move in his hands, and it made a soft click sound. The old man put it on the ground, but he didn't see any movement. The little wooden dog started running again, much faster than before, and kept barking "Wong, Wong." Xiaoyu's eyes lit up when he saw these consecutive scenes. This little wooden dog is so simple, but it runs very steadily, and it looks harmonious. Hey, I remember that this kind of mechanical dog was released by the University of Pennsylvania before, and it seems that there are quite a few mechanical principles involved. Well, the structural design is definitely not simple, the joints have to be hydraulic, but I don't know whether it is directly driven by a motor or a gear bearing. Uncle Chen, I'm going to pick up Xiaoqi with the stone, remember to drink the stewed roe deer soup. Qiangzi saw too much about such a small institution as Lao Chen repairing, and didn't care at all. Suddenly, a loud voice came out, interrupting Xiaoyu's wild thoughts. He was stunned for a moment, and then he reflected, he was not in a mechanical laboratory on Earth. Go, stop fighting. The old man replied without raising his head. Xiaoyu didn't dare to make a sound, he just crossed over, for fear of revealing any flaws, he hurriedly followed. He also remembered that person. In his memory, it was Lao Chen who adopted the unlucky ghost and his younger sister Xiaoqi, who had been pulling them together for many years. This shop was opened by Lao Chen, and it was called Lao Chen's Organ Repair Shop. The hut he lived in was in the back of the repair shop. By the way, the organ puppy should have been sent by Aunt Li from the street for repairs. When he came to the town, Qiangzi finally slowed down a bit. Xiaoyu also observed the situation around the town as he walked. At the same time, the memories of the unlucky ghost also poured into his mind. In the small restaurant in the town, a small bird stood on the railing at the door and greeted the guests with a squeaked cheer. In an unknown grocery store, a metal robotic arm was fixed to the wall, and the bent section kept stirring in the basin. Looking at the street again, a strange locomotive similar to the police tricycles that I often saw when I was a child, but with a whole wooden body, is carrying 2 people and a lot of goods at a leisurely pace. Looking into the distance, the sky-high blast furnace, towering water tower, intricate source power transmission pipelines in the smelting plant area, and countless chimneys with thick smoke. Xiaoyu almost understood the technological level of this world. This is not a modern factory, but it also has the industrial style of the 18th and 19th centuries, and various mechanical applications are very extensive. Well, it's just an energy version. Yes, Yuan Ning. He now knows that, like the source heat cooker, those blast furnaces, water towers and pipeline machinery are all organs, and they use source energy. This is something similar to electricity on the Earth, but it does not need to generate electricity by burning coal, oil, etc., but can directly use the source crystal. According to the memory information, reading www 1 Star organs of yuyuganshu.com are some of the most basic living organs. 2 Star organs are used for various work, production, and even battles. As for institutions with 3 stars and above, in the memory of the unlucky ghost, I only know that the large organs in the nearby Yuanjing mine and metallurgical factory have 3 stars. Captain Kui of the Mine Guard team also has a mechanical bow, which is powerful and domineering. The legendary terrifying 3 Star beast Steel Claw Wolf contends the energy world, the agency world. As a doctor of mechanical engineering, he never dreamed that he would come to such a world. Since he was a child, he has been addicted to all kinds of mechanical toys, from clockwork frogs and 4-wheel drive vehicles, to assembling rifles and looms with Lego. After college, he chose to major in mechanics without hesitation. Well, there are also the eternal classics Dragon Fighter, Gundam and even Astro Boy. At the meeting here, he has already confirmed that he has crossed. As for the reason, I had heard of such a thing before, but I had never thought that it would fall on me. Thinking of his parents and friends in another world, he suddenly became angry and felt a majestic sense of loneliness. "You guys, how are you?" he sighed in his heart. In any case, he got an extra life, so he really shouldn't complain. The first task at the moment is to be a good Xiaoyu. He has always had a strong will. After working in the laboratory and internship factory for 9 years, at the doctoral stage, I have vaguely touched the top level of domestic mechanical engineering, relying on my love for machinery and an unyielding tenacity. From now on, I'm Xiaoyu in this world. Well, little miner Xiaoyu. After leaving the repair shop, the two trotted along the town road, quickly crossed a small hillside, and came to the bottom of a big banyan tree, but they didn't see anyone at all. "Xiaoyu Nuzui, if you run so fast, what about Zioki people? Wait a while if you don't come." Qiangzi was not embarrassed, he sat on the ground directly, took out a small hand crossbow from his arms, wiped it carefully, and sighed again, "Hey, when will I be able to save enough? Qian has repaired this crossbow. If we encounter a 3 Star beast, we won't be afraid of any beast in this forest." Xiaoyu's eyes also lit up. The crossbow in Qiangzi's hand is called the source shot crossbow, and it is also a 2 Star mechanism, but the long source box at the handle of the bow is somewhat damaged, and it can no longer exert its true power. He now knows that the driving core of a mechanism is this kind of source box. The small box that Lao Chen took out from the head of the trap dog is the source box of the trap dog. Not only can it be filled with the source crystal as an energy source, but more importantly, the source box also contains the source array structure that drives the trap to move. As for what the origin array structure is, the unlucky ghost doesn't have much detailed information on his memory. After all, he hasn't turned on level 2 perception. In Xiaoyu's opinion, this source array structure should be equivalent to a mechanical drive system. Of course, the principle of composition is definitely different from that of the Earth. It seems that perception is required. Since this source box is the core, I should hurry up and study it. And this level 2 perception, I have to learn how to break through. There is no way, this world is very strange, almost everything that is useful is inseparable from the energy mechanism. Even if it is a mining pick, relying on the cutting edge and rigidity of the steel material itself, it is impossible to break the hard associated ore rock that produces the source crystal. Only by relying on the source energy tool, that is, the 2 Star mine pickaxe equipped with the source box and filled with source crystals, can completely dig the ore rock. But Xiaoyu couldn't use it yet. He could only use a 1 Star pickaxe when he went down to mine, and the effect was much worse. Yes, only when the perception level reaches level 2 can the 2-star source box be activated, which can guide the source crystal energy to the steel shovel and exert its powerful power. It's probably a bit like the world of immortal cultivation, formation. Xiaoyu guessed in his heart. On the other hand, Qiangzi looked into the distance from time to time. Speaking of which, Shito, Can you tell Xiaoqi that she won't get involved in a fight with our men? I heard that she went to Niu Gang and them again last night to trouble her. It's not shameful enough, how can I marry her as a wife in the future? Well, it really is. According to the unlucky ghost's memory, this Xiaoqi also did not know why, after she sensed level 2, she had one word for fighting, extreme love. Xiaoyu smiled back at him, do you think I can persuade her? Besides, if you want to marry Xiaoqi, you have to beat her first, you can't rely on crossbows. Of course it's your real ability. Qiangzi pouted. Haha, don't look at Qiangzi's rhetoric here, if he really brings it out, he can't beat his sister Xiaoqi, who is 2 years younger than them. Brother, is your headache okay? Under the banyan tree, Xiaoyu and Qiangzi had just chatted a few words when suddenly a beautiful young girl's voice came from a distance. Xiaoyu got up and looked over, it was the younger sister Xiaoqi in the memory of the unlucky ghost. She was wearing a tight purple dress with a ponytail on her head, just like a little sister next door. Although the childishness on his face has not disappeared, the pink and tender face shows a heroic spirit. Xiaoyu knew that the unlucky ghost had a good relationship with this younger sister, so he didn't dare to show his flaws, and said with a smile, I'm fine, I heard that you went to Niu Gang and them again yesterday to trouble you? Madame Huang can't control you either. I'm not afraid that they will bully you. Xiaoqi pouted and put both hands on Xiaoyu's arm. At this moment, she really looked more like a 15-year-old girl. Xiaoqi, you better save us some face. Qiangzi heard this, and suddenly smiled bitterly, you said that several of us were fighting, what did your little girl do? I can't eat at the stone. What a loss. Humph, I don't know who was beaten to the ground by Niu Gang and the others yesterday and can't get up. That's because there are so many of them. And I'm about to turn over soon. Next, I'll get a flying kick, a heavy punch, and then... When they met, Qiangzi, who was anxious to see Xiaoqi, was not willing to lose face and kept arguing with Xiaoqi. Xiaoyu felt a little warm in his heart when he saw the two of them arguing. On Earth, he was an only child, and later he was addicted to machinery and only had a few like-minded netizens. The feeling of being a friend of the same age seemed very good. The three of them joked all the way home. Old Chen sat slumped behind the wooden counter and seemed to have completed today's repair work. He narrowed his eyes and saw Xiaoqi's figure before he raised his head slightly and asked, Xiaoqi, has your study been going well recently? Uncle. Xiaoqi trotted behind him, pinched his shoulders with a pair of small hands familiar to him, and said coquettishly, it's okay, Mrs. Huang also praised me for learning fast. But there are guests at her house, what is it? An amazing person, she often has to accompany her. Old Chen raised his head comfortably, and asked again, oh? Then study will be left behind. No, I mainly practice by myself. Mrs. Huang also said that the guests here are a bit special, maybe I can play against them. By the way, my perception has broken through 6 meters. A lot of progress. Xiaoqi said excitedly. 6 meters? Qiangzi was a little stunned when he heard this. This little Qi is also too terrifying. She is 2 years older than him, only 3.4 meters. Thinking about Xiaoyu again, he hasn't broken through level 2 yet, and his strength is no more than 1 meter. After hearing this, Lao Chen nodded and said, yes, there are not many people in town who have the ability. Mrs. Huang is number 1. You should learn more with dim sum. Mrs. Huang is another deputy leader of the mine team. She is a single woman in her early 30s. Her strength even reaches 3 stars, and she is one of the few Malay cultivators who have gone the Malay route. Half a year ago, when Xiaoqi was seen by her, she felt that her talent was good, so she led her to learn something from her. Xiaoqi kept moving her hands and replied, don't worry, uncle, I will definitely study hard. Seeing that everything was fine, Qiangzi went home to get something and waited for dinner. Xiaoyu nodded to Lao Chen and went to his hut. When Xia Yu entered the room, Xia Qi suddenly asked in a low voice, "Uncle, brother, and the others fought again yesterday. Brother seems to have been knocked out. Fortunately, it's not a big problem. It's too dangerous. You can teach brother Taisha too, okay?" "Okay." Old Chen glanced at Xia Yu's door with a complicated expression, was silent for a moment, and then shook his head slightly. "Xiaoyu, stop practicing, and be an ordinary person in the future. This world is not peaceful. You must also remember that everything is impossible. Be brave, build a solid foundation, this is the most important thing." Old Chen can also do physical exercises? This is a bit strange, why doesn't the unlucky one know? For some reason, Xia Yu faintly heard the words of his sister Xia Qi in a low voice. "As for physical skills, I have this in my memory. In fact, it is not some kind of magic or secret method, but is similar to the exercise method in the Earth Army. It can exercise people's physical fitness, skills, and reaction power, etc. It is generally for the use of various organs in the future. Lay the foundation." Whether it was in front of Xia Qi or Lao Chen, he had to be more nervous. Fortunately, the unlucky ghost didn't talk much during his lifetime. He also practiced silently for a long time according to his memory for some small action details, trying not to leak any flaws. "At least they haven't noticed anything yet. It's just that I don't have a level 2 perception yet." As a traveler, Xia Yu couldn't imagine what he would do in the future if he couldn't even reach the level of ordinary people in this world. Even if he was mining for source crystals, he didn't have a level 2 perception, so he couldn't use the slightly more useful 2 STAR mechanical tools. He could only use a 1 STAR mining pick, which was several times worse than a 2 STAR alloy shovel. Moreover, this is not the 19th century of the ordinary Earth, but a world of energy and agency. Can you only be a low-level miner after coming here by yourself? He was unwilling and a little curious, so he stuffed himself in the room and began to try to mobilize his perception based on his memory. Soon, a vague consciousness emerged in his mind, gradually condensing into a slowly spinning cyclone. This should be the perception cyclone, the initial state of perception in the mind. He tried to concentrate, and slowly, a tentacle separated from the cyclone and continued to extend forward. A little more. Soon, the tentacles of the cyclone stopped, no longer moving forward. Xia Yu knew that this was himself, and it was also the farthest distance that the unlucky ghost could send his perceptions out. No more, no less, just 1 meter. 1 meter is the limit of first-level perception, which can basically be reached by children in their teens. More than 1 meter all the way to 10 meters, is the range of the second-level sensory tentacles. Still can't do it. After crossing over by myself, it really didn't bring any improvement in aptitude. Until now, he still had the feeling of dreaming about coming to this strange world, and he was still looking forward to the golden finger that could help him kill the quartet. But now? No. Disappointed, he just subconsciously stimulated the perception cyclone again, branching out a second sensory tentacle. It turned out to be a success. According to memory, isn't the level 1 perception only able to separate out 1 tentacle? At level 2, it is possible to add another one, and not everyone can add one. He knows that there are even people who have reached a strong level 3 perception, but can only separate 1 tentacle. Perceptual tentacles are generally considered to be a special talent, which can help people better detect and study the structure of energy, speed up understanding, and then better control organs. Level 3 can have up to 3 tentacles. Level 4 is 4. But this is all theoretical. In fact, generally only if you choose an organ division as a profession and concentrate on researching the production of organs, will you pursue the highest tentacles at each level, so as to deepen the understanding of the source energy structure, design, and produce a better source array structure. And agencies. Others, such as ordinary adults who work and live normally, generally have a level 2 perception, but very few can distinguish 2 tentacles. At the same time, most of the mechanic monks who make a living by fighting also have difficulty reaching the branch of perception antennae that matches their level. It's not that I don't want to, it's just too difficult. It seems that this is mainly due to talent, and there is no special training stimulation method. As for the number of tentacles beyond the perception level, for example, there are 3 perception tentacles at level 2? That was even more unheard of. This is common sense. But his perception strength is still at level 1, why did you read www.yuyuganshu.com separate out the second one? Could it be the mutation of the soul brought about by transmigration? He suppressed his excitement and wonder, and tried to separate out the third rule. Actually, it was successful. Article 4. The fifth. Xiaoyu didn't stop, like a child who got a novelty toy, until the 7th tentacle was about to appear. Suddenly, an explosion-like pain erupted in Xiaoyu's mind, and the cyclone of perception in his mind collapsed instantly. The intense pain almost made him faint. It seems that I have played a big game. After all this tossing, I feel a little hurt. Fortunately, the damage was not permanent. After sitting in meditation for more than half an hour, he felt that the perception cyclone in his mind had stabilized again. He tried it at will, and 6 sensory tentacles quietly stretched out from the cyclone, and they continued to extend to a position of 1 meter before they stopped completely. Within the range of 1 meter, he can feel the surrounding information even with his eyes closed, and even the larger breath flow can be sensed, but he needs to perceive the direction in which the tentacles extend to be clearer. The 6 tentacles are still there, but they are not more than 1 meter. In terms of perception strength, he is still level 1, a level 1 that emits 6 sense tentacles. Simply appalling. Xiaoyu knew that this was not because the unlucky ghost had little knowledge, because growing up in this institutional world, the knowledge about grades was almost the most basic common sense. The basic textbooks written by some masters that my sister brought back were also written clearly. And Xiaoyu vaguely felt that these 6 tentacles were not the limit, but the perception strength was too weak to support the stability of the cyclone and collapsed. It seems that it is going to evolve into a tentacle monster, JavaScript. In the hut, Xiaoyu recovered for a while, and began to use his mutated perception to try the origin array structure in the 1STAR agency. There were many organs in the house. Xiaoyu glanced around and decided to start with the source fan. The source box of the source fan was on the base. He turned the source fan upside down, and lightly pressed a button, and the source box popped out. He did not look at the 1STAR source crystal inside, but carefully observed the source box. This is the simplest power source box, only the size of a matchbox, which can provide basic power, but it is enough to drive the fan to rotate. On the touch, the tentacles are cold, the material is like some kind of metal, but I am not sure. Except for the location where the source crystal is filled, other parts are sealed. On its shell, there are also engraved and painted mysterious lines of the source array, and there are 2 rows of small characters at the bottom, La Tongchenj Zhangfu 3rd Organ Workshop, Xing Yuan Calendar 1586. Well, it was produced last year. The source boxes in this world are not mass-produced, but they can also be purchased directly. The sellers are usually the organ workshops of those big forces. Of course, even the most basic 1STAR power source box, light energy box, etc., must be made by a mechanic who understands the structure of this source array. Of course, this kind of simple source box is usually a mechanic apprenticito make, because it is widely used. So it will be sold on a large scale. With the source box, most people will assemble the mechanism by themselves. For example, if you like a puppy, you can buy a power source box and match it with a puppy mechanical shell. If you like a kitten, you can match it with a kitten, and it can also be made into a fan. Toy car. Apart from the mining and sale of source crystals, source boxes are probably the most profitable business in the world, and the natural monopoly is in the hands of big powers. This power source box comes from the Zhang family of La Tongchenj, which belongs to the town, a powerful family. According to memory, this year should be the year 1587 of the Xing Yuan calendar. The first year of this calendar is the time when Genenge was officially discovered and utilized, that is to say, the history of the world's Jinneng organs is roughly 1500 years old. Before that, humans could only use ordinary mechanical weapons, and they were not the opponents of various powerful beasts at all, and it was very difficult to survive. With the discovery of source energy, human beings developed perception and tried to construct the source array structure based on this, and then produced various source energy organs. In particular, the emergence of 3 STAR or higher source energy organs has greatly improved the combat effectiveness of the top powerhouses, and a balance of power has emerged in the fight against beasts. Although there are all kinds of terrifying beasts in this world, the powerful primary energy source of active crystal, the civilization of the earth that is purely driven by various scientific principles, will naturally not be valued. Xiaoyu subconsciously compared the two worlds. However, the organization civilization in this world is not long. At least from the perspective of the mining town, the mechanical technology level of these 1 STAR and 2 STAR institutions is not high, and large-scale modern production has not been born. Well, it should be the source array structure. It's suitable for automated production. The unlucky ghost's knowledge is average. No matter how much he has, he is not clear for the time being. Leaving these behind for a while, he concentrated his mind at this moment and began to use his senses to probe the source box of the origin fan. Sensing the appearance of the cyclone in his mind, Xiaoyu first divided only one tentacle to cover the source box. Suddenly, there seemed to be a lot of space in his mind. Several lines were blurred and clear, and finally stabilized into a flat figure. This figure is its source array structure. Simple and clear, this is the structural characteristic of the source array of most 1-star agencies, but it also seems to contain a special energy. He began to try the 2-star mechanism again. Because the unlucky ghost can't use it, but he doesn't have one in his house, but this is a repair shop for the mechanism, and there are a lot of 1 STAR and 2 STAR mechanisms in the back room. Sweep it casually. The simplest and most common 2 STAR mechanism should be the mining pick. There are 6 or 7. The source box of the 2 STAR mining pick is at the top of the handle, and it is smaller. After Xiaoyu does not open it, he directly separates a tentacle from the perception cyclone. A few lines flashed in my mind, but they collapsed in an instant. 2, 3. Until all 6 tentacles were separated, the pattern drawn on the entire mining pick was instantly surrounded by him. Soon, a pattern that was obviously much more complicated than the source array structure of the source fan appeared in his mind, but he didn't wait for him to understand how much, but collapsed in an instant, and his head stinged violently. Sure enough, it still doesn't work. He is not reconciled. With less than level 2 perception, even ordinary people are inferior. As for how to improve the perception intensity, he only knows one way at present, and that is to keep training. For 2 days in a row, apart from going out with Qiangzi and playing a rodeer to relax, Xiaoyu just stayed in the hut by himself, training his perception after mutation. Fortunately, there is no other repair shop here. All kinds of ordinary 2-end level organs, good and bad, are everywhere. In the past 2 days, in addition to mining picks, what kind of mechanism shuttle, mechanism bow, energy lamp? He has practiced more than 20 different types of mechanisms. No matter why the unlucky ghost couldn't even reach the level 2 perception of ordinary people, but his own soul is different. With the help of 6 sensory tentacles, his understanding of the 2 STAR origin array has increased a lot. Even if it can't be completely constructed, I can feel that it is not too far from a complete understanding, and then I can officially break through to level 2. On the 3rd day, he had to stop. The mine is about to start. Others are fighting for the king and hegemony, so I have to be a little minor. Despite some reluctance, Xiaoyu decided to go to work honestly. At least until he is fully recognized by others, he does not dare to reveal his flaws. Since the last time he realized that Lao Chen doesn't seem to be as simple as it seems, and even his younger sister knows some things that unlucky people don't understand, he has become more cautious. The mining town is called Xiaochang Town. More than 100 years ago, the state mining group discovered the Yuanjing mine here, and quickly summoned the state guard to clean up the nearby beasts, and even sent a nest of third-level fierce beasts, the Iron Claw Wolf, to kill them all. Immediately afterwards, all kinds of mining equipment were set up, and several factories were built around, and the open space next to it soon developed into this small town. As almost the only source of energy, each source crystal mine is invaluable, but it is also graded according to its quality. This ore vein has a relatively low level. Most of the output is 1-level source crystals, and the proportion of 2 end-level source crystals is less than 1/10, but the reserves are not small, and they have not been mined for more than 100 years. Over the years, Luo Tongcheng, which belongs to the town, has changed its third city owner, and the chief executive of the mine has also changed a lot, and the town has not developed very much. Over the years, including workers and their families, the population is in the early 10,000s, and there is not even a formal mayor. The manager of the mine manages this town by the way. A few hundred meters to the south from the center of the town, the miners' houses stretched out onto the slopes of the valley in the distance. Hundreds of grey stone houses, all with dark grey lime slate roofs, serpentine along the hillside, with shorter alleys interspersed between the label houses and down into the valley. The current main mine is on the west side. It is also a low hill, stretching for several hundred meters. Further inside is the waste mine that has been mined for 100 years. When Xiaoyu and Qiangzi approached the pit, the neighborhood was already full of absenteeism, and everyone brought an iron lunchbox and a kettle. This dress is really uncomfortable. It was the first time that Xiaoyu wore these burlap shorts and a padded hat. Xiaoyu was really not used to it. But all the miners wear it like this, plus the top of the tunnel is very low, it is easy to touch the head, and the thick hat cannot be taken off. Let's go. At this time, Qiangzi took back the safety miner's lamp, which is also a kind of source energy organ for lighting. This is only 1 star. The structure function of the source array in its source box is to simply emit light, and it doesn't need to be too bright. Used for a long time. Qiangzi was already the team leader at this time, and he was able to bring 5 people, and Xiaoyu was also on his team. He distributed the miner's lamp one by one to several people in the team, and whispered to Xiaoyu, "Stone, you still follow me today? I heard that the part that collapsed last time was not handled well, and the work was started in a hurry." Xiaoyu nodded, "Well, I understand. Like the mines on Earth, the miners ride in a hanging cage, which is composed of a mechanical pulley and a twister, similar to the principle of an elevator, but also controlled by source energy. The experience of sitting in a hanging cage is not good. Compared with the elevator, the lifting and lowering of the cage is not regular at all. The middle section is completely free fall, and when it reaches the bottom, it will suddenly decelerate due to the brake." Xiaoyu couldn't help shouting out several times in the middle, but he held back. About half a minute later, when his feet finally touched the ground, he quickly grabbed a railing, barely stopped himself from shaking, and felt a little nauseous. "Haha, why did you become a soft-footed raccoon shishi?" A harsh voice came. It was Niu Gang's group. They were counted as one team and belonged to different groups. Xiaoyu also looked up and remembered these people. Well, they are all acquaintances. After all, they used to fight often. The strange death of the unlucky devil that day is probably inseparable from these little gangsters. It's just that in that fight, the unlucky ghost didn't appear to be injured at all, and even Qiangzi, who sent him home, didn't notice at all. "Yes, you Stone, how many source crystals can you dig in a day? Why don't you just eat your sister's soft rice?" Another tall and strong young man also shouted. "Shut up, Lu Dong, isn't it enough to be beaten?" Seeing their unpleasant words, Qiangzi immediately cursed back. Don't call Xiaqile, the young man named Lu Dong said with disdain. Damn, it's gross to call a woman in a fight. This sentence made Qiangzi speechless. Forget it, a few quarrels between them were nothing, not even Captain Su who was not far away said anything. He turned his head to comfort Xia Yu. Don't pay attention to these guys, no one dares to do anything in this mine. Xia Yu nodded and said nothing. After all, he is 27 or 8 years old, and if he doesn't really mess with him, he won't really have the same knowledge as these little brats. Everyone was familiar with the road, and they quickly walked along the dark, narrow, and long mine road. It took about 10 minutes before they finally got inside. A group of leaders divided an area, and then each went to work. Take it as an experience of life. Xia Yu comforted himself. What a rare experience this is. Fortunately, the danger of crystal ore mining is not too great. The source crystal contains a lot of energy, such as a level 1 source crystal, which can be used for several months in an ordinary household source lamp, but the source crystal structure is very stable and is not easy to explode. According to the memory of the unlucky ghost, the biggest danger of crystal mining is the collapse of the associated ore seam and water seepage. But in this world, although the technical principle of mining machinery is not high, some important components are energy organs, such as the hoist, the hanging cage, etc., and the stability is okay. However, he was actually a little confused. In the memory of the unlucky ghost, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The high-star agencies in this world are very powerful. The legendary war armor is even as powerful as the mecha in the Earth comics. Why is there no powerful mechanism to mine iron ore? Do you want someone to go down and dig? Hey! Why is this rock formation so hard? He went down with the pickaxe, only some powder flew out of the rock formation in front of him, and the main rock block didn't move at all. Stone, what's wrong? Hadron's strange voice came. Xia Yu hurriedly looked to the side, his face flushed. His memory has come flooding back. Although the pickaxe in his hand is a 1STAR mechanism, he doesn't use his perception to activate the source box, and naturally he can't exert his source energy. It can be seen that the ordinary rocks in this ore layer are very hard, not much worse than ordinary pig iron, and they are useless. The miner's lamp was a little dim, no one saw his face, and he didn't reply. Now he concentrated a little and picked up a 1STAR mining pick to dig on the rock formation. At the beginning, it was 2 hours. Xia Yu stopped a few times in the middle. He couldn't get used to this infinitely repetitive work at all. His physical strength was good, but he was mentally boring. But the surrounding people seemed to be fine. He also discovered that even ordinary people in this world have much stronger physical fitness, and even ordinary people have few illnesses. There seems to be only one official small medical center in the town. He looked at his results. A thick pile of rock and soil was piled under his feet, but the ore in the basket was barely the size of a fist, and the basket was barely full. Looking at the strong sun, the third basket has already been changed. Come on, take a break, take a break. Qiangzi took the lead and shouted. Everyone in the team stopped, and no one said much, just sat on the ground to rest and drink water. Boom! Xia Yu rolled up the sweat with his sleeves, and was about to sit down again when he heard a violent rumbling sound. Then, he heard a creepy noise, a mix of all kinds of screams and some machinery collapsing to the ground, plus the broken rock formations from the collapse of the mine. Damn it! Qiangzi jumped from the ground and frowned. Something happened, it's the fourth group. I really don't know if these security inspectors eat shit. Everyone calm down, let's go to the Lord slowly. Go down the tunnel. The other people were also a little panicked, and they got up one after another, ignoring the ore baskets and the full track cars around them, and walked out one by one along the track, but they carried the ore picks and minerals with them. In the event of a mine collapse, this is a life-saving tool. Stone, you follow me closely. Qiangzi asked the others to walk in front and dragged Xiaoyu to the end, with a worried look on his face. It's just the first day of construction that something happened again, it's a bit weird. Clear. Xiaoyu didn't talk much, he didn't want to just explain it here. Why is it so hard to be a dignified traveler? Suddenly, an exclamation came from the front, oh, there is a landslide here too, and the road to the main mine is blocked. Would you like to go back? Isn't there a hanging cage over there in the second group? Qiangzi rushed forward a few steps and glanced at the exit of the mine that was blocked by some kind of broken rock. He knew that it would take at least an hour to dig it out. At this time, the longer it stayed underground, the more dangerous it was, and he said decisively, go to the second group. Not long after, a few people walked through a fork to an open mine area, where more than a dozen miners had gathered. It's useless, the cage-winding machine was destroyed by the explosive force, these silverfish. Before they got close, there were shouts from there. Oops! When Qiangzi heard this, he was also a little confused. Calm. The fourth group exploded, the road back to the main mine was blocked, and the second group's hanging cage was damaged, so coincidentally, all three external passages of myself and these people were blocked. Xiaoyu panicked in his heart, but forced himself to calm down. In a blink of an eye, he remembered the strange death of the unlucky ghost. I am afraid this matter is really not simple. At this time, he has realized that a conspiracy is shrouded in his head. He forced himself to calm down. He silently observed his surroundings, secretly raising his guard. Of course, there is no Adoris machine underground, and there is no mobile communication device in this world, so they can't get in touch with the people above. But in any case, if this happens, the people above should be able to react, and it should not take much time to repair the stranding machine. So most of the miners here decided to wait here. Xiaoyu knew, however, that if it was a conspiracy against him, then the twister would probably never get better. This hidden conspiracy has touched the bottom of his heart. Before crossing, he was just an otaku who mainly spent his time in the laboratory, and it was impossible to come into contact with these dangers. This kind of murderous intent that directly threatened his life caused a wave of fear in his heart, but also aroused waves of anger. Waiting here must be death. There is no air circulation in the mine, and there is a lot of dust. If you can't get out for a long time, it will be a dead end. You can't sit still. Qiangzi, come here. What's the matter? Hold on for a while, and someone will come to save us. Qiangzi also believed that the people above could fix the twisting machine in time. After all, it was not a complicated mechanism. Xiaoyu shook his head. Qiangzi, I have a strong sense of danger, and I don't want to wait here to die. Let's at least try another way. But there are only 3 passages that we can get out of here, and none of them will work. No, the 4 groups that exploded haven't gone yet. Then go. He couldn't help but have to think. He directly pulled him and walked towards the 4th group. At this time, there was already a lot of dust in the mine tunnel, and the road was covered with gravel that was shattered by violent explosions and piled up continuously. I am afraid that the longer it stayed, the more dangerous it would be. Going inside, it was a little difficult to breathe. The 2 of them covered their mouths and noses with wet clothes, and walked out relying on the grey miner's lamp. Not long after, they arrived at a piece of collapsed gravel, and the mine tunnel in front of them, which could accommodate 4 people walking side by side, was completely blocked. Qiangzi didn't talk much at this time. Seeing Xiaoyu's nervous look, he realized that maybe something was wrong. He hurriedly focused his mind to release his perception, and continued to probe forward through the gravel. This is another function of perception. It can be used as a method of spiritual detection to detect the surrounding environment. There are gravel in front of it, not a fixed rock formation. They have no detection mechanism, and delicate perception is naturally the best detection method. No, my perception is 3.4 meters, but I can't penetrate the gravel layers in front of me at all. Qiangzi said with dismay, "We can't pass through, why don't we go to the gravel side of the main mine and try? Try again." Xia Yu was very calm at this time. This rock formation collapsed, and the surrounding mine formations must also be affected. Try the next one. The fourth group was the first to explode. It is said that if someone secretly designed it, it must be a foolproof place, and then try to block the other two roads. Maybe there are enemies guarding those two places. At this moment, Xia Yu chose to trust his intuition. Hadron didn't talk nonsense, and urged the sensory tentacles to explore the edge of the gravel and the rock formations on the side. There! Qiangzi suddenly exclaimed excitedly, "This way, it's a bit empty, by the way, this should be a big corner. The passage is blocked, it would be great if we could pass through the rock formation here. But it's almost full. 3 meters. Xia Yu said in one word, "Smash." Hadron has a level 2 perception, and the pickaxe he used is one level higher than Xia Yu's. When he went down with the pickaxe, the rocks collapsed and flew. But Xia Yu was not idle, he also released his own perception. A full 6 tentacles of 1 star perception went toward the rock formation to detect the second. There is a play. He couldn't tell what kind of rock formation it was, but he noticed it when he was smashing mines before. Even if these rock formations are harder than most rocks on the earth, they are not a neat piece, but are filled with some bubbles like water. Of holes. Especially in the pure rock area that is far from the source crystal, the bubble holes are denser. And the places with dense holes are undoubtedly the best parts to destroy. Hadron can only release one sensory tentacle, and he can also touch some holes. With experience, he knows how to place pickaxes where there are many holes. But under Xia Yu's 6 tentacles, the holes in a small area were almost invisible. He gathered 6 perceptions in a circle of 10 centimeters, and probed little by little. He soon found some denser sections almost filled with holes. Yes, my perception distance is limited, but the general direction is there. It is more convenient for me to find out where Hadron's next move is going. He called Qiangzi, "Wait a minute, you will hit here next." Qiangzi was stunned for a moment, seeing that the place Xia Yu pointed was half a meter smaller than what he had judged, and was about to make a sound, when he saw that Xia Yu had narrowed his eyes again and used his perception to investigate. His hands did not stop, and he went down with a pickaxe. Whoa! This time, it's really much easier. A lot of them will be scraped down by the pickaxe of Hadron at any time, and there is a hole on the wall. Xia Yu said again, "Next, go this way. This way. Go a little further to the left, yes. Go this way." Xia Yu felt a little tired. After all, releasing 6 sensory tentacles was his limit. It had lasted for half an hour. The sensory cyclone he felt had begun to become unstable, and dizziness came in waves. Facing the crisis one after another, he didn't want to sit still, so he bit his tongue and spit out the blood in his mouth. "Go on, this way." After a full half an hour, Xia Yu took 2 breaks in the middle of the road, and again forced himself up to investigate. Qiangzi finally wanted to get through this nearly 3-meter-long mine. Seeing the last blow, Qiangzi went down with a pick and pierced the last rock wall, revealing a hole. Qiangzi was in a hurry, slammed the heavy pick a few times, and finally completely opened the rock formation of the cave's mine wall. He probed out, and sure enough, there were still infinite collapsed gravel on the side. If it wasn't for a right-angled corner, it would be impossible for the two of them to move away from the pile of broken rocks. Finally succeeded. Xia Yu finally couldn't hold on anymore, he fell down and sat on the ground, closing his eyes to regain his spirits. On the other side, in the second group of mines after Xia Yu and Qiangzi left, more than 20 absent workers are still waiting for the cage stranding machine to be repaired, but there has been no movement. With the increasing amount of dust in the air, some people couldn't hold it any longer and began to try to find their way to the main mine. But they were limited by common sense, knowing that the explosion came from the fourth group. thinking that there was a real large-scale collapse, and they did not dare to escape there. Finally, the thinner and thinner air made people unable to hold on and became desperate. Even though he knew that it was impossible to hear from above, he couldn't help shouting. "Help! Damn it, is there anyone up there? Help us!" Several people who went to the main mine also fell into despair after frantically digging for a while to collapse and smash the mine. After a while of wasting their energy, they all gasped and breathed all kinds of dust, and some of them had already begun to lose their spirits. On the side of the fourth group of mines, Xiaoyu and Qiangzi had just turned over and really planned to take a break when suddenly, a black figure appeared in front. "Who is it?" Qiangzi felt a little hairy. The man was 10 meters away, dressed in black and covering his face with a piece of cloth, and was looking over here vigilantly. In the end, seeing that only Xiaoyu and Qiangzi appeared, he recognized it carefully, and the corners of his eyes flicked, and it was Yuxi. His grandmother. "I thought this action would be seamless, but I didn't expect you to slip away just after going out. I'm really lucky." "Humph, you guys are scrambling to go to the main mine and wait for the rabbits. I didn't expect me to meet the righteous master here." The man in black sneered, holding a strangely shaped machete in his hand. He jumped forward and jumped ahead at an astonishingly fast speed. "It's the enemy!" Qiangzi exclaimed, but he had never seen this battle before, and was a little stunned for a while. Xiaoyu, who was a little prepared, was completely convinced. Now he was even more sure that someone was going to kill him, so he hurriedly reminded Qiangzi, "Run." The two of them just drilled through the hole they dug. The hole was not big, and the edges were full of gravel. At this time, Xiaoyu grabbed Qiangzi and pushed it in. Then he jumped and got in, his face suddenly, a hole was cut open by the gravel. Qiangzi finally came to his senses, and a trace of anger broke out on his face. He quickly picked up the pickaxe and guarded it at the entrance of the cave. He turned around and said to Xiaoyu, "Run quickly and call someone over there, I won't be able to stop him for long." The tone was flat, but very firm. When Xiaoyu, whose whole body was tense, heard this, a warm current suddenly rose in his heart. This is a real brother. But he couldn't leave. He knew too well that Qiangzi couldn't stop the man in black. Silently picked up the pickaxe, he stood aside in a flash, just hidden from the side and couldn't see from the opposite side, and at the same time gave Qiangzi a resolute look. "Let's carry it together." Here, the man in black jumped to the entrance of the cave in an instant, kicked away the rock formation on one side, and at the same time, a stream of light flashed on the machete, and it came over in an instant. So fast! Qiangzi also sensed luck. In addition, the mining pick was not short, and he held the scimitar upright, but he felt a huge force coming, and his entire arm was dragged down heavily. This man is also much more powerful. However, Xiaoyu took advantage of the situation and went down with a pickaxe, smashing the man's head just out of the hole. But he didn't want the man in black to suddenly shake his head and dodge the blow suddenly. The machete in his hand was still being driven by Qiangzi, and he suddenly wanted to run over. Not good. Qiangzi knew that this man had really practiced killing skills, and he must not confront him hidden. After biting his teeth, he suddenly threw away the pickaxe and threw himself at the man in black, and immediately stalemate with the half of his body that came over. In the small hole. "Stone, hurry, hit him on the head!" Qiangzi shouted. Xiaoyu knew that Qiangzi was trying his best, and smashed his pick at the man in black with all his strength. Whoops! This time, it hit the rock formation, and the pick didn't knock out much of the rock formation. It turned out that the man in black leaned back with all his strength. Although he couldn't break free from Hadron's life-threatening entanglement, he escaped with the help of the rock formation. At this moment, he suddenly freed up a hand and pinched it on Qiangzi's neck. Suddenly, a strong sense of suffocation made Qiangzi's face turn red instantly. The arm did not move at all. Xiaoyu's eyes immediately turned red, and he forced his luck to perceive again, and slammed down on his arm that stretched out through the hole. Boom! This is the gauntlet. Under the ordinary clothes of the man in black, he actually wore protective gauntlets. That's also a 2STAR defense mechanism. Xiaoyu didn't move at all when he went down. The man in black was also surprised just now, and he couldn't help grinning. Hey, it seems that the information recorded is good, you kid, it turns out that you are really a waste of level 2 perception. He is dead now. Death raised his head behind a rock formation, and tightened his grip on Hadron's hand again. Yes, without a level 2 perception, Xiaoyu couldn't reach his head on the air side, and he couldn't break the rock formation, and his exposed arm couldn't be broken. What? Seeing that Qiang's eyes were wide open under his forceful pinching, his face had turned purple and black, Xiaoyu was extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Why can't I use my own 2STAR mechanism? He almost fell into madness. He picked up the 2STAR mine pickaxe that had Hadron already thrown on the ground, and completely ignored it and stimulated the perception cyclone in his mind. All 6 tentacles poured out, and they continued to stretch forward, rushing for me. Rush! Run again! Clang! At this moment, Xiaoyu's 6 tentacles all exceeded 1 meter, and the crazy perception cyclone danced like dragons and snakes, and quickly circulated along the source array pattern on the 2STAR mine pickaxe, and suddenly a burst of brilliance flashed. This time, the high-raised mining pick smashed a rock blocking the face of the man in black, and then smashed it into the face of the man in black. Ah! How could you? The man in black never thought that Xiaoyu would break through, and he was accidentally smashed by a mining pick on the left cheek, and suddenly let out a miserable howl, his entire cheekbones sunk, and a deep hole was smashed out of his left eye. The big hole. As soon as he was in pain, his hands became exhausted. Qiangzi also reacted, and without being surprised by Xiaoyu's performance, he broke free from control with all his strength and pulled the man in black over halfway with both hands, shouting, "Stone, hurry up, keep fighting." Xiaoyu was still in a state of madness at this time. Without having to remind him, he raised his hand and slammed it down with a pickaxe, hitting the back of the man in black. Bang! This time, the man in black made no sound, his eyes were round, and the incredible look on his face had not disappeared, but he could no longer make a sound. This powerful man in black is dead. Boom! A crisp sound came, but it was Xiaoyu who lost the pickaxe and stared at the corpse in front of him. Did I kill you? He felt his hands shaking. Xiao Qixuan is a little bored these days. As a child of a small family who has been excluded, after breaking through the 3rd level, he managed to save a lot of krona, and then climbed a step further from the group, but he could only be assigned to this remote and old spar mining town as the Prime Minister. I did not expect that 2 accidents occurred in succession in just 6 months. Just now, he received a source message from the safety director. There was another landslide in the number 4 mine. At least dozens of people were trapped underground, but a section of the hanging cage was damaged, and emergency repairs were being organized. These guys! It's best to bury them all. I have really committed a sin this year. Qi returned to Qi, but dozens of miners still couldn't ignore it, so they had to order people to do their best to repair it. Damn, there's going to be a lot of bleeding again. Those silverfish sitting in the spacious and bright offices of the state government don't care how much trouble a mining town has to manage. If the monthly payment is too small, they will come with fines, and they will not listen to explanations for any reason. If an accident occurs, it is an accident. If you have to stop work and negotiate compensation, how can you guarantee the full amount? There is no way. He can only make it up from his own small vault, but after all this, when will those crowns be recovered? Boom, boom. There was a knock on the office door. Damn it, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I'm fine, don't bother me, get out of here. He scolded him without raising his head. Suddenly realizing that something was wrong, he jumped up from his seat, and instantly jumped off the table. At the bottom, he took out a polygonal weapon with a strange shape, but at the moment when the perception was stimulated, he was horrified to find that he couldn't move at all. A pitch-black, icy half-foot-long short knife directly pressed against his throat. The black brilliance circulating on the dagger is particularly dazzling under the sunlight coming in from the window. Judging from the complex pattern of the source array, the dagger's level is much higher than that of ordinary 3-road level weapons, at least it is more expensive than the one in my own hands. The energy weapon 5 flower blades is stronger. Fear. He is already a 3-star beginner, and there is no one in the entire mining town who can handle him. After all, this is just a small frontier mine. The person in front of him must have reached the mid-level in strength, and he seems to be a rare type of play that favors melee combat. Xiao Kixuan regained his senses slightly, only to realize that the person standing in front of him was someone he could never have imagined. He forced himself to calm down, put his life on the hands of others, swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Chen, Mr. Chen, what do you mean? Someone Xiao is not talented, so he can make the mining farm officially appointed by the State Mining Group. Manage. Call the source phone immediately and tell the security department to activate all the equipment and go to pit number 4 to save people. A cold voice sounded. I've already arranged for someone. I'll say it again, everyone, bring all equipment. Including the 3-star source energy crane, digging torque, and the 3-road clearing brake trucks equipped by the head office last month, all enter the mine and save people. The short knife approached a little again, and suddenly a bloodshot stretched out from Xiao Kixuan's neck. Ah, yes, I will send them all out immediately. It was Lao Chen who did not hesitate to reveal and hide his identity for many years and broke into the General Counsel's office of the mining town alone. In the impression of that unfortunate ghost, it seems that he only has a little low-star mechanism maintenance, delicious and lazy, and the little old man with a cigarette bag in his mouth all day long. However, only Xiao Kixuan went to organize a large-scale rescue, and Lao Chen was still worried. He couldn't wait to see if Xiaoyu was lucky enough to escape this disaster, or pinned his hopes on those rescue teams who didn't care about the lives of ordinary miners. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention, he quietly came around the main mine, looked at it a little, and made a decision immediately. I saw that he felt a slight urge, and a chain was instantly ejected from a receiver at his waist, and it was firmly nailed to the top rock wall. Then, he showed the special steel claw mechanism in his hand, and then made a deep jump, with the surface of the steel claw flashing, and plunged deeply into the rock layer more than half an inch. In the dimly lit mine shaft, he was like a nimble and fierce cheetah, dragged by the chains and supported by steel claws, and climbed to the straight rock wall of the mine cave with amazing agility and vigor, and it took a few dozen breaths. Directly down the well. If someone were to see it, they would definitely find that the complex pattern of the source array circulating on the source box of the steel claw mechanism was no less than 3 stars. When he reached the bottom of the mine, he ignored the dust in the air, and hurried towards the 3 groups of mines where Xiaoyu and the others were located. Suddenly, a group of people in black clothes and masks appeared in front of his field of vision. Blood suffocation. The many years of bloodshed made him instantly sense the aura that pervaded the bones of these people. This smell is slightly different from the suffocating energy that comes from killing beasts. It is accumulated from killing people, and it is difficult to conceal it without deliberately suppressing it with some special materials. Damn it! Although he didn't dare to confirm it, his intuition told him that these people must be targeting him and Xiaoyu. How could this small source crystal mine have anything else worth doing? Fortunately, the strength of several people is average. Except for the leader who reached 3 stars, the energy frisbee in his hand may be slightly threatening, but it is a long-range attack weapon. The other 2 STAR guys are not in his eyes at all. He didn't even hide his stature, he charged straight up, the steel claws in his hands suddenly flew out, and he killed the 3-star primary opponent in a single face-to-face. He didn't even have a chance to fire the shuttle gun, and it was like chopping melons very quickly. As for cutting vegetables, 5 or 6 opponents all fell into a pool of blood. The man in black, whom Xiaoyu and Qiangzi managed to kill by chance, had no power to fight back in front of him. Not good. The 2 living mouths he left behind were just one of them. He was inattentive, he even bit the poison sac hidden in his teeth and committed suicide. This style and method of control are really organized killers. His heart was awe-inspiring, but he also laughed at himself slightly. It seemed that he had been at ease for many years, and he had lost the most basic vigilance. The professional killer organization has sneaked into the surrounding area and planned to kill the young master, but he actually found out the signs. He groped for a bit from several corpses, and found several organs, weapons, materials, and change, but there was no identity-related items. This is also normal, and then he concentrated his mind to release his perception. Suddenly, a strange feeling came, and after a short memory, he remembered what was wrong. This smell seems to be similar to the incense in Xiao Kixuan's room. His perception has undergone multiple special trainings and can exert some special means, and his sensitivity to smell is one of them. Xiao Kixuan, if you're standing there too, then you can't blame me. He wrote it down secretly, and then without delay, he rushed forward, and with a few quick steps, he came to the collapse that filled the entire mine tunnel. Crushed rock. At a glance, I knew that this place was destroyed by a source bomb, artificially created a collapse, and blocked the passage between the mine pit where Xiaoyu and the others were located and the main mine. Hey! Old Chen sighed. He thought it would be enough for such a group of killers to ambush, but he didn't expect the enemy to have other plans. Looking at the gravel of the mine that had been completely blown up, he sighed slightly. Right now, he didn't have a large-scale mechanism, so he couldn't get through it all. It's been more than 10 years, have you finally found something? He withdrew his gaze, and his eyes instantly became extremely sharp. On the mine side, the man in black was killed with difficulty, and it took a long time for Xiaoyu and Qiangzi to recover from the almost collapsed tension after the killing. At this time, he couldn't do anything else. Qiangzi was the first to start, dragging the body of the man in black for a long distance, throwing it into the depths of an abandoned mine tunnel, and dug down a lot of gravel to block it. Outside, and then rushed back to save people. Fortunately, the time was not too long, most of the trapped miners remained awake, and everyone supported each other and walked to the 4th group step by step. Qiangzi led a few people who were still quite physically strong to clear the way in front. When many people couldn't hold on, 2 road-clearing brakes suddenly appeared on the blocked road ahead. These vehicles have functions such as bulldozing, road opening, and oxygen supply and rescue. They are new high-end underground rescue vehicles. It's the rescue team. This is the rescue vehicle, and the rescue team is here. Great! Seeing that they could finally be saved, many people were relieved, and they couldn't hold it any longer, so they fell into a coma. Here, as Xiaoyu and Qiangzi escaped from the mine, Lao Chen, who even had plans to kill, finally loosened a tight string in his heart. As soon as he got home, he was worried about the killers, so he quickly asked what happened to the 2 of them underground. Xiaoyu didn't speak. He still hasn't fully recovered from the joy of breaking through level 2 perception and the complicated state of the first murder. At this moment, in the face of Lao Chen's very concerned eyes, a burst of complicated emotions suddenly surged from the bottom of my heart. When Qiangzi saw that Xiaoyu didn't speak, he started from hearing the explosion of the mine, and talked about their experiences in the underground all the way. When it came to their escape to the 4 sets of mines, the key point was that Xiaoyu suddenly turned on the level 2 perception, and then 2 together, they were able to break through the rock formation at the corner in time. He concealed the existence of the man in black, which was secretly explained by Xiaoyu underground. When Lao Chen heard this, he was shocked. What? You mean, you suddenly activated level 2 perception in the well. Qiangzi glanced at Xiaoyu and rushed to reach it. Well, yes. We were in a hurry at that time. Fortunately, the stone suddenly broke through. We both started to break through that rock formation. Broke through. Brother, did you hear that? Your son has broken through to level 2. At this time, Lao Chen had already suppressed his anger and remorse, and the strong surprise and excitement completely occupied his mind. He looked at Xiaoyu with expectation, and said tremblingly, Xiaoyu, have you really broken through? Quickly, show me a demonstration. A bit. It is good. Xiaoyu didn't think much about it this time, quietly activated his sensory tentacles, and then probed towards old Chen. Of course it was just one, he didn't dare to reveal his secrets now. Following Xiaoyu's actions, Lao Chen excitedly moved his perception and carefully checked the surrounding movement. Gradually, when Xiaoyu's sensory tentacles just exceeded a distance of 1 meter, he suddenly widened his eyes. In the end, the sensory tentacles released by Xiaoyu stayed at 1.5 meters. Okay. It really is level 2, it's level 2 perception. That's great. Seeing this scene, Lao Chen became incoherent with excitement, and then he regained his senses and slowly said to Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu, yes, I lost my temper. Don't blame Uncle Chen. He raised his head and sighed. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com continued. Back then, when I saw you and Kikai, 2 children in the deep valley outside the town, you were only 5 years old, and you were mentally affected. A lot of injuries. The doctor said that it is difficult for you to perceive at level 2. I am a little too excited. Old Chen repeated a few more words, remembering that Qiangzi and Xiaoyu were too tired, so he hurriedly asked them to rest. Watching Xiaoyu enter the house, Old Chen slowly walked out of the store with his pipe in his mouth, and glanced deeply at the mine in the distance. Isn't there an ambush in the mine tunnel over there? It's impossible. With the professional level of this organization, it is impossible to make arrangements only on the main mine road, but he is a little bit puzzled as to how Xiaoyu and the others escaped. Feeling that the storm was really coming this time, he hesitated for a while, recalling an Ado's phone number that was hidden deep in his memory, and went back to his room to take out the Ado's phone and prepared to dial it, but he stopped immediately. For more than 10 years, I have never contacted there. He also thought that he would never have that day again, so he took the 2 children, Xiaoyu and Xiaoqi, to grow up slowly and live a good life. This time, did the people over there do it? He was a little hesitant to confirm. The style is wrong. If it was the actions of the 2 brothers and sisters over there, and they knew that they were here to protect them, it would be impossible to send only one of them. With their financial resources, they would hire a 4-star gold medal killer, and they would have no chance of life. Could it be that you are too sensitive? Maybe that wave of killers in the mine had other goals here, Xiaoyu and the others were just affected. Fortunately, I have already found out that this matter is related to Xiao Kixuan. Moreover, Xiaoyu has actually broken through to the 2nd level, so it's time to teach him something. The atmosphere in the town suddenly became tense. Such a big thing happened again in the mine that just started. Not to mention that the section of the mine was blocked, and the road clearing brakes that came to emergency rescue later rolled all the way, with super destructive power. Especially when Lao Chen killed those few people, he didn't deal with the bodies at all. Naturally, he was seen by many people in the rescue team later, causing bursts of consternation. It is said that the executives of the State Mining Group are very dissatisfied with this matter and will soon send a special investigation team to investigate. Now, news has come out that this small accident caused the death of 5 miners and injured 16 people. These people simply don't care about human life. Xiaoyu was a little indignant, but there was nothing he could do. After a hard day's work, he finally couldn't hold on any longer, and slept deeply all night. By the next day, all his thoughts were looking forward to what new changes he would have after turning on level 2 perception. He started to try those two STAR mechanisms that he couldn't move at all before. In the mine, he once triggered a 2 STAR mining pick in one fell swoop, thinking that ordinary 2 STAR mechanisms should have no difficulty for him. So, he put his first attempt on the shuttle, which he had always been interested in. The shuttles in this world, or at least the ones that Xiaoyu has seen in the small towns so far, are a bit like the ancient carriages on Earth. In terms of speed, the fastest he has ever seen is about 30 or 40 miles, which is more than enough for walking around town. This kind of car, if you buy it in an agency shop, costs thousands of ore. It is a relatively expensive 2 STAR agency, and it consumes quite expensive 2 STAR source crystals. Not all miner families are willing to buy it. The source box of the shuttle is generally at the bottom, and this small cargo model is no exception. Xiaoyu didn't remove it, but concentrated directly, slowly moving the sensory cyclone, branching out the tentacles and heading straight to the source box. Immediately, a source array structure gradually appeared in his mind, a complex figure formed by dozens of interlaced lines and merging multiple substructures. He vaguely knew that a certain substructure should be used to combine with the source crystal. Many 1 STAR machines also have similar structures, but they are more complicated. Some seem to be dynamic structures, balance structures. Hey, why doesn't this shuttle move at all? He had already used his perception to urge the source box. When the lines on the surface of the source box lighted up slightly, the entire shuttle trembled violently, but it didn't move forward as Xiaoyu imagined. It's not bad, is it? Xiaoyu didn't give up. He looked the graphic carefully again, and then continued to stimulate perception. The shuttle car vibrated violently again, but it still didn't start. It's strange. At this time, his curiosity was the heaviest. He quickly threw the car aside and tried a 2 STAR energy lamp. This source lamp belongs to 2 stars. Compared with the 1-star lamp, it can adjust according to the user's perception and emit light of different intensities, directions, and even shapes. It is a very common decorative and practical multipurpose mechanism. 1-star source energy lamp, the source array structure is much more complicated. He is now using his perception a lot faster, and soon the sensory tentacles reach the source box. Brush. As the pattern on the source box lit up, a dazzling beam of light shot straight out of the lamp, projecting it onto the wall like a flashlight. Hey, sure enough. Xiaoyu's heart was relieved, and then he stimulated his perception, and slightly adjusted the rather complicated structure of the source array, trying to adjust the light beam to a normal scattered light. No movement. Come again. The dazzling beam of the flashlight was still projected steadily on the wall, and Xiaoyu had the heart to eat that light. How is this going? He couldn't figure it out, so he threw the source lamp to the side temporarily, and picked up the most familiar mining pick. This thing can't be smashed to test it. So he picked around and found a small source freezer. This time, he successfully built a source array structure in his mind. The source freezer was activated immediately, and when the door of the cabinet was opened, a burst of icy breath came out. But when he tried to lower the source freezer a notch, he failed again. The next attempts are similar. For these 2 STAR mechanisms, Xiaoyu can activate the single function side, but he can't handle the more complicated ones, or the ones with more functions. After more than 2 hours of tossing, Xiaoyu finally couldn't hold back and opened the door to ask Lao Chen for advice. Ha, I know you can't hold back, you must find out for yourself. In the room, old Chen was waiting for Xiaoyu to ask for advice. Hearing his doubts, he laughed and said, Xiaoyu, do you think that as long as the perception strength is reached, the level is enough, and all the organs can be used? Is not it? In the mine, didn't you directly activate the origin energy mining pick? On the Earth, give him an ordinary pistol, and he can operate the simplest shooting without practicing. Even if the shooting is not accurate, the so-called master cannot stop such an ordinary person's bullets. Looking at old Chen's smiling eyes, he knew that he might have taken it for granted, so he scratched his head embarrassedly and said, "I really think so." "Ha ha!" Lao Chen laughed out loud. Xiao grew up with him, and because of his health problems, he never thought that he would be able to break through level 2, so he didn't teach him any knowledge about organs. Thinking about his true identity again, he can only sigh with emotion. However, this problem is also encountered by many people when they are young. He straightened his expression and said, "Xiao, since you have reached level 2, I should also teach you some knowledge of the mechanism. Do you know what the core of this mechanism is? The core of the agency? If it is said that before crossing, his understanding of the mechanism is naturally a kind of machinery, especially the ancient wooden cows and horses are widely circulated through the romance of the Three Kingdoms. When I was in college, I also had a course called History of Chinese Machinery, which introduced a lot of ancient machines, which are called organs. Some of them are very clever in conception and production skills, and even with modern technology, it is difficult to replicate. Degree. But he also knows that in this different world with source energy as the core, the role of the mechanism is even greater than the role of the machine on the earth, and the application is more extensive. As for the core of the agency, thinking that every organ must be equipped with the magical source box, he tentatively said, "Should it be the source array structure?" "That's right." Old Chen nodded happily. On this issue, in fact, all major schools have different opinions. But one thing is recognized by everyone from the machines of the original era to the powerful organs we use today, the essence has changed. It is the source array structure that allows humans to use perception to stimulate the source energy. From ancient times to the present, wild beasts have always been the great enemy that threatens the survival of human beings. For tens of thousands of years, human beings have been lingering on, and survival is very difficult. Only when the source energy is discovered and the perception is stimulated, can human beings seize some living space from the threat of wild beasts by creating mechanisms. A mechanism is composed of two parts, the source array structure and the mechanical structure. The source array structure is the core, which can be constructed and driven by perception, and convert the energy of the source crystal it carries into various powerful failures, while the mechanical structure is the core. The mechanism is the most suitable device for this source array structure made with various materials and techniques. Xiaoyu nodded, he could understand this. The machinery on the earth has electricity, oil and coal and other biomass energy, but the transformation of energy is the core. Therefore, the engine of modern machinery is the core. In this world, the source array structure is the key to this transformation. Lao Chen continued, as for the problem that bothers you, it's actually very simple. Because, the agency is divinely granted, and the use is from the heart. Any mature origin array structure contains a stable energy construction mode, which can play a specific role. Effect. So, the source array represents the construction rules of energy. I don't understand the rules, how to use it. To use an organ, the most important thing is to understand the energy construction structure of the source array, and then use perception to motivate, including moderate adjustment of the energy it outputs. This means that the same organ has completely different effects when used by different people. Of course, there is also a special mechanism that has been solidified, just like the mining pick, which solidified the output of source energy during production. No matter the output energy, frequency, form, etc., it will not change, as long as you understand its structure. It can be activated. Although there are fewer changes in the control of such a fixed mechanism, the advantage is that the control is simple and does not require more attention. But if you want an organ to make various changes, you must first understand it, and then use your perception to drive and adjust it. Do you understand? Yes, got it. In the face of Xiaoyu's question, Lao Chen talked for a long time, and Xiaoyu sounded it clearly and clearly. That mining pick is indeed more like an energy-solidified mechanism. It is only used for mining, and does not require any changes. It can stably output fixed energy, and it is enough to strengthen the pickaxe blade for mining. As for the shuttle car, the source energy lamp and the source freezer, the functions are much more complicated. In addition to the source array structure to divert the energy, it also needs to control the perception to make changes during use, so as to achieve the effects of speed travel, beam transformation, and freezing level adjustment. Seeing him nodding, Old Chen knew that Xiaoyu's comprehension was really good, and he also talked about some basic knowledge about organ techniques. As for the deeper and more detailed parts, such as the understanding of the source array, the type of mechanical structure, material science, the source array symbol cluster. These, he can't explain it clearly at one time, and even he doesn't understand it himself, so he can only rely on Xiaoyu to slow down in the future. Slow to learn. Xiaoyu also knew that the mechanism technique could be regarded as the foundation of civilization in this world. Learning is not a oneda effort, but he still asked a few basic questions about the structure of the origin array. For example, the source energy lamp, the control of the source freezer, and the shuttle car are what he is most interested in, and Lao Chen also answered them one by one. I have gained a lot today, and in the past few days, Xiaoyu found that Old Chen didn't seem to have any doubts about him. He even vaguely felt that he even had a little respect for himself. In short, it is not like the plain and natural relationship of a family. At least Xiaoqi's attitude towards him is normal. Thinking of this, he hesitated to tell Lao Chen about the killer in black. But he dared not take the risk. The more Old Chen attached importance to the unlucky ghost, the more careful he had to be. Hold on. He made up his mind. However, there is another question that has been pressing in his heart for a long time, and he also asks it at this moment. Uncle Chen, do you mean the person who can make the source box and the mechanism? Yes, even though it's not even getting started now, but after all, Xiaoyu has traveled to this magical world and saw a new civilization, how could he not be interested in its most core secrets? He is more interested in becoming a mechanic rather than simply using organs. After all, the origin array structure is the embodiment of the rules of the world. Moreover, according to the memory of the unlucky ghost, the talent of the mechanic is mainly to build the structure of the source array, and one of the important criteria to measure the talent of a personal mechanic is whether the perception can be divided into more tentacles in order to better understand the source array structure. After all, I am a tentacle monster, who made me feel more tentacles? He has already tried it, and after reaching level 2, the maximum number of sensory tentacles he can separate out has reached 9. This is absolutely an incredible number. Old Chen could see that Xiaoyu was really interested in the mechanism technique, and nodded. Yes, a mechanism teacher usually has a very deep understanding of one or several source array structures. Moreover, they can use this understanding, using the most suitable materials and techniques to design the most matching mechanical devices, which is also the production process of an organ. There is another situation. Lao Chen thought about it, and added, if an organ master's understanding of the source array structure reaches the essential level of this type of energy, he can even create a brand new source array system, and play a huge role. You can be called a organ master. This kind of person is a real genius, a master. It is also a stage that every organization master dreams of reaching. Organ mage? It's a bit like a divine gift from an agency. He understood. Just like a mechanical student, he can make a bicycle according to the drawings, but it does not mean that he can design a twelve-wheeled vehicle with a new structure and practical application value from scratch. Inventors who can make creative inventions are of course geniuses on earth. Seeing Xiaoyu's fascinated face, Old Chen knew that this was the normal reaction of all young people when they heard about the organ divine master for the first time. He talked a lot today, ready to let Xiaoyu go back to digest it. Suddenly, he thought of something. He pulled out a well-made mechanism from the box in the corner of the room and handed it to Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, I just said that the core of the mechanism is the source array structure, so the key to using and even making the mechanism is perception. This organ is specially designed to exercise perception, called swordfish kill. You can practice more when you have nothing to do. Swordfish kill? What a strange name, or is it designed to exercise perception? Xiaoyu looked at this strange mechanism with exquisite workmanship and an iPad-sized screen. He was very curious and immediately went back to his room to study it. In a dimly lit room, Kui Dalong, the deputy captain of the mine guard team, took off his armor and wiped it carefully. What did you find? In the corner, a question suddenly came. The voice seemed to come from an ice cellar, and it was so cold that there was no smoke. Kui Dalong naturally knew who it was, and shook his head. I have already examined the corpse. The one who did it was a master, but he deliberately hid the way of the shot. I have seen it myself, and the wounds were all left by flying tiger claws at 4 corners. The cold voice asked again, are there any doubters? Not yet. It was too chaotic that day, and anyone could break in. Those who can kill a raccoon in a short period of time have at least 3-star high-level strength and a lot of combat experience. In the entire mine, there is no such thing on the bright side. This powerful person, Huang Ying's woman, is at most the same as me, a Samsung Junior, unless there are experts from outside. Are there experts outside? The icy voice paused slightly, and he thought of some possibility. Anyway, I will continue to investigate. By the way, can you talk to Xiao Kixuan? Kui Dalong was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something and asked. Li went to him, but he didn't let go before. I will visit him in the future. Of course, he understood Kui Dalong's thoughts. This young man from a small family wanted to be in the position, and naturally he wouldn't want his superiors to be better off. This was to borrow the organization's hand. However, as long as the task is completed, they don't mind getting rid of a small grassroots director of the mining group. Thinking of this, he opened his mouth and said, the movement here is a bit big, the mining group should send someone to investigate, you should be careful for the time being. As for Xiao Kixuan, I will find him when I get back. Where are you going? Don't ask if you shouldn't know. I'm going to go for about a month this time. You can inform me anytime you have news here. Yes. When he came out of the room, Kui Dalong had a calm expression on his face, but he couldn't help muttering, dealing with this kind of guy walking in the dark is really troublesome. I didn't expect the family to arrange this assistance task for him. However, thinking that if he wants to advance in the mining group, the support of his family is indispensable, so he has no choice but to cooperate. Of course, unlike these people, he is also considered a son of an aristocratic family, and he also has his own style of doing things. Sometimes, killing people doesn't necessarily require thunder. Kui Dalong had already observed that Xiaoyu and the one named Qiangzi, and knew that they were not too vigilant, so through his son Kui Xiaochao, he contacted a suitable person to do it. Anyway, those little ghosts are also fighting and tossing on weekdays, and no one will know that it is related to them. But luck seems to be bad, such a good plan has failed. This made the raccoon anxious, and Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com directly wanted to arrange a move in the well. It's just that the movement they made was a bit big. Humph, it's better if it's bigger, it's better to toss Xiao Kixuan away, and then he can take advantage of the trend to take a step up, but that Huang Ying is a bit difficult. When Kui Dalong left the room, the figure in the dark corner came out. With a devil-may-cry mask on his face, he couldn't see the expression on his face. He missed the mission one after another, and even the raccoon didn't save his life, which made him a little doubt that he had met the righteous master, but the raccoon died. But the Kui Dalong who organized the joint arrangement did not find out anything, but he couldn't wait here. There is news from Pengyu City and Anyang City, and the goals are more similar. The quest that Blood Blade received this time, the reward is terrifying, the total reward is actually equivalent to 10 4-star quests. However, this task is too special. The scope is too broad and the clues are too few. The organization used the strongest intelligence system to investigate the entire Federation, and at the end, there were more than 500 clues initially locked down. He was assigned nearly 100 Kongyunzo, but the progress was not very smooth. The day before yesterday, Xiaochang mining town missed one after another. He happened to be in Latong City, so he rushed here in person and investigated again, and it really looked like the target. At least, the brothers and sisters were roughly the same age. In the past 6 months, he has solved more than 10 suspected targets. This time, he wanted to solve it easily, but the state mining group and the investigation team were coming. He knew even more that the woman named Huang Ying in the guard team had agreed as a guest, so he decided to let it go and let Kui Dalong continue the investigation. Pengyu City, it should be Qi Lao Gui's territory. I hope you won't let me down this time. Xiao Kixuan's mood has become more irritable these 2 days. There have been 3 consecutive accidents at the mine, and this time it was directly damaged by external forces. He felt that his control over the mine had dropped to the extreme. If he didn't make any moves, the 2 vice-captains under him had backgrounds, and he was afraid that he would not be honest. Thinking of the taste of being stabbed in the throat with a knife that day, he still shudders when he thinks of it. This old man, I didn't expect to hide it so deeply. He is still a little puzzled now that Lao Chen suddenly appeared that day with murderous intent, although he just asked himself to save people. But I can't let go of this breath, so let's take him as a chance to deliver Luwei to the door. After so many years of accumulation, Xiao Kixuan has also made a lot of money in the group headquarters to make some people, so that he can get this fat difference even if the small mine is so remote. It takes more than 2 hours for the source rail shuttle to go to the nearest Latong City, but the one who sits in the town oil and water can't be compared at the same level in any branch. Like many forces in the Federation, after years of development, the mining group has become a behemoth. Every rank has to go through a pit, but it is not necessarily able to be ranked. Xiao Kixuan knew that Kui Dalong and Huang Ying, the 2 vice-captains, both had some backgrounds. It took him half a year to stand still, and it was time to shine his knives. Especially, the investigation team sent by the group is about to arrive. The people from the supervision department are all wolf cubs who eat people and don't spit out bones. They won't give up easily if they don't dig their own small vault upside down. You have to do something yourself. The world has not yet had the birth of a mobile communication agency, but the Eidos phone similar to the Earth's fixed telephone has appeared, and there are large groups that monopolize it. He hurried back to the office, came to the desk and directly dialed an Eidos channel. Transfer me to the Armed Forces Department of the State Mining Group. I want to issue a mission, it is urgent. Samsung mission. On the only main road in the town, a shuttle bus traveled quickly, causing pedestrians to avoid it for a while. At first glance, it was the small red shuttle, but no one said much. This girl, everyone has watched her grow up since she was a child. Her temperament is a little anxious, but her character is very good. Don't look at the speed of the shuttle, but she can perfectly avoid pedestrians every time with her superb control skills, and she doesn't even give way. People feel conflicted. What's wrong with Kiki, driving in such a hurry? Hey Lao Lu, you don't know that this girl has such a temper, and people didn't hit you, why are you complaining? It's not very dangerous, I'm worried that Kikai will suffer in the future. Come on, girl, Kikai is only 15 this year, your eldest brother is going to join the guard team, and she is not her opponent. Just looking at the posture of the shuttle, her perception of stability and delicacy is not ordinary. This girl is still being spotted by Mrs. Huang, I'm afraid it will be amazing in the future. It was Xia Yu's younger sister Xia Qi who was driving. Her shuttle was so fast, of course she didn't hear what her uncle in town said. She was depressed and didn't want to pay attention to it, so she directly stimulated her perception to increase the speed a bit. When she got home, she threw the shuttle bus at random, rushed into the house in a fit of rage, and shouted, Uncle Chen, Uncle Chen! I'm really off today, come and teach me, that kid is so off. People. But at this moment, Lao Chen was not at home, but Xia Yu came out with a swordfish. Xiao Qi, who bullied you? I called Qiangzi to teach him a lesson. Brother. When Xia Qi heard this, she immediately became happy. If the two of them really passed, they would have been abused to the point of not wanting to eat for 3 days. She was about to ask Xia Yu where Uncle Chen went, suddenly her eyes lit up, and she grabbed the swordfish in Xia Yu's hand and said, "Hey, brother, you are playing this too, come on, let's kill 2 games, let me vent. It was fun. You want to play this with me?" Xia Yu was stunned when he heard the words, his sister's level was much higher than himself. But at the end, he understood that Xiaoqi was angry outside and wanted to find someone to abuse her. But he didn't refuse, and sat down on the chair next to him. Come on. In fact, he has been studying and practicing this swordfish killing for the past 2 days. Just like any game he has just started, he is at the height of his addiction. I have to say, this swordfish killing is really a genius trick. It was designed to exercise perception and introduced the concept of game design. During practice, once the user uses perception to open, they will enter a space that seems to be opened up independently, just like a virtual reality space. Then, there will be extremely fast swordfish in all directions. What the user has to do is to use perception to turn into arrows and kill as many swordfish as possible. This magical virtual space of perception, as well as the endless swordfish, and the magical means of perceiving arrows are all brought about by the unique source array structure of this mechanism. This is the first time Xia Yu has seen such a completely unimaginable mechanism. Among the mechanisms he had been in contact with before, such as the mechanism shuttle, the mechanism freezer, etc., had similar applications on Earth, and swordfish killing, a mechanism that could generate virtual reality and even a bit like a telepathy game in science fiction, let him know that this organ civilization is far from simple. If you have a chance, you must check it out. What is the principle of this swordfish killing mechanism? Speaking of which, the first time Xia Yu tried swordfish killing, he immediately thought of the mobile game that once swept the earth, Fruit Ninja. But this is far more than just a game. Killing swordfish by perceiving arrows is an excellent way for people to continuously improve their perception strength and control in the game, and it can also train people's reaction speed. After only 2 days of being immersed in this game, Xia Yu made significant progress. The maximum number of his sensory tentacles has increased from 9 when he just broke through the second level perception to 12, and the longest distance of each tentacle has reached 2.1 meters. Almost every time he tried, he could feel that his perception became stronger a little bit, and the process of using the perception control mechanism became more and more skillful and fast. Moreover, like Fruit Ninja, this unit not only has a single-player training method, but also a battle mode. When Xia Qi saw Xia Yu's response, she immediately sat down and said with a smile, "Brother, I know that you have just broken through your perception, so you started playing this game. I won't take advantage of you. Let's play easy mode, shall we?" Xia Yu smiled, "Oh, don't you take advantage of me. The big deal, I'll let you start for 2 seconds, no, 3 seconds. I'll let you start for 3 seconds. 5 seconds. Okay, just 5 seconds." While Xia Qi was not paying attention, Xia Yu calmly adjusted swordfish killing from the complex mode he practiced to simple, and then shouted, "Let's start." Game start. Xia Yu slightly condensed and sensed the swordfish killing machine, and immediately entered this familiar virtual space again. Although it was a battle version, he didn't see Xia Qi in this space. He made up his mind, and after the 3-second countdown ended, he had adjusted his state to the best. Soon, the first swordfish that flew quickly appeared in the field of vision, getting closer and closer, 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. Suddenly, an arrow quietly shot out, hitting the swordfish directly. It was under the magical effect of the arrow rain killing mechanism that Xia Yu's perceptual tentacles turned into arrows. He had just killed a swordfish, and the second swordfish was less than 4 meters away from his left side. He immediately mobilized his senses to shoot arrows. Kill again! The speed of the swordfish began to speed up, and Xiaoyu's perception was already skillful. The third and fourth. Soon, he shot the 12th swordfish to death one after another. However, at this time, the rate of appearance of swordfish has become more and more intensive, and he has tried his best to kill every swordfish. Pfft! With his loss, a swordfish came at a high speed, and its sharp mouth stabbed the shoulder of his virtual body, and Xiaoyu suddenly felt a stagnation in perception. This is another interesting point of swordfish killing. Unkillable swordfish will sting your virtual body, which will affect and stimulate your perception. Xiaoyu didn't care, and continued to stimulate his perception, stabbed every swordfish that was about 2 meters away from him as much as possible, ignoring the body that was stabbed one after another. This is also impossible. The maximum distance of his sensory tentacles is now 2.1 meters, and the sensory arrow can only reach this distance, and it will disappear beyond that. When he stabbed a swordfish again, and was preparing to meet the swordfish that was getting closer and closer in another direction, another arrow suddenly appeared in the distance, killing his target directly. "Hey, let your 5 seconds come, here I come. Brother, your movements are so slow." Suddenly, Xiaoqi's strange cry came, but Xiaoyu still couldn't see her. He knew that because it was in the virtual space, his sister's position should coincide with his own. It's just that the sister's perception distance should be more than 6 meters, and naturally kill the swordfish before herself. He is not discouraged. At this time, the frequency of swordfish is already quite high, and he is trying to deal with the next swordfish. However, once again, the swordfish was killed again before it approached. Another one, die! Die! Die again! Too fast! Xiaoyu almost exclaimed in surprise. After Xiaoqi joined the battle, she was able to kill all of the swordfish that were already dense after 5 seconds had passed. This is not the difference in perception distance, but the sister's reaction speed and perception control speed, completely killing herself. Too horrible! Xiaoyu finally knew how powerful his younger sister was, who was called a genius by everyone. She is 2 years younger than the strong sun and the unlucky ghost. The gap was too great, he simply didn't move and just waited there. After all, he can only take action when his sister's kill speed can't keep up with the frequency of swordfish's appearance. This wait is nearly 20 seconds. During these 20 seconds, Xiaoyu could only watch from a distance every swordfish that appeared in all directions, and disappeared completely when it approached 6 meters. Finally, the total time was nearly half a minute, and the swordfish about 6 meters that Xiaoyu was staring at began to slip through the net, and he was busy with perception stimulation, but he was robbed again at about 5 meters. I almost forgot about this. Xiaoyu was a little numb. Even though his sister didn't kill the swordfish at the first moment of perceiving the farthest distance, he turned around and killed quickly. After more than 10 seconds, Xiaoyu finally waited for the swordfish that entered the range of 2 meters, but because he was not prepared, he was directly shot in the knee by the already extremely fast swordfish, and he felt another meal. The moment he was about to secretly shout careless, he was stabbed in the back again. It has been more than 40 seconds, and the speed of swordfish's appearance at this time is already terrifying to this extent. No, losing to my sister doesn't look good. For the first 5 seconds, he played the game quite well, but now that he knew his sister's strength, he decided to start the cheating game. 12 sensory tentacles fully opened. At this moment, Xiaoyu seemed to have truly transformed into a tentacle monster, and he was extremely sensitive to all directions. At this time, even the number of swordfish that Xiaoqi missed at a distance of 2 meters was already very large, and the speed was extremely fast, but Xiaoyu was keen to capture the swordfish that entered the range of 2 meters at this moment. There are 11 swordfish, immediately draw 11 arrows and kill 11 swordfish in 1 second. The next second, 9. If at this time, someone stared at the screen of the swordfish killing machine between Xiaoyu and Xiaoqi, they would find that the swordfish on the screen disappeared in pieces almost instantly. This is Xiaoyu's killer move. Here we go again, 10. It's so cool. No matter how much, no matter how many pieces, come and kill one. Xiaoyu once again realized that he was at his best during practice, and was about to continue killing. Ding! Suddenly, a loud voice came out, and Xiaoyu suddenly found that all the swordfish around him had disappeared, and his perception had also escaped from the virtual space. Seconds, let me get the S-kill, ha, let's have fun with you. Come, let's have another round. S-kill. At this time, Xiaoyu noticed that a few lines appeared on the screen of the swordfish killing machine. Competition is over. Note, the score gap between the two sides reached S grade, which took 52.1 seconds, and the battle ended early. Xiaoqi, 93 points, Xiaoyu, 0 points. The result of this round, Xiaoqi won. What? This swordfish kill, and the setting of S kill? Xiaoyu wanted to scold someone. My own tentacle monster was just about to show off its mighty power, but it was judged that the gap was too big and it ended prematurely. Really want to cry without tears. But he knew that his perception strength was still weak, and the swordfish had to be within a 2 meter range to kill him, which made his sister so much ahead. Of course, in terms of the speed of reaction and the speed of perception stimulation, he is also far behind. Come again. Xiaoyu felt that many of his mistakes were caused by his own mistakes in this game, and he was a little unfamiliar with people for the first time. Okay, brother, don't be angry, or I'll give you 10 seconds this time. Xiaoqi knew how big the gap between her brother and her level was, and she had a bottom line. But she was afraid of hitting Xiaoyu, so she asked carefully. No, just 5 seconds. After 54.3 seconds, the battle ended. In this round, Xiaoyu's score was still 0, even though he made almost no mistakes this time, and he had activated 12 sense tentacles at the beginning. Sister S was killed. Xiaoyu's eyes were a little red, and he was abused while playing games. This kind of thing hasn't happened a second time since he was abused by his classmates when he played Contra for the first time when he was a child, and he practiced frantically for half a month to regain his position. No, let's do another round. Or 5 seconds. Xiaoqi was a little embarrassed now. Right. In this game, Xiaoyu lasted for 58.2 seconds. It was only 2 seconds before the match ended normally, but he was still beautifully killed by his sister S. But Xiaoyu has not made any mistakes in this round, and even his perception strength has been slightly improved. The high-intensity combat stimuli, including the perceptual stimuli brought by the swordfish stinging the virtual body, allowed him to make visible progress in a short period of time. Again. Xiaoyu's voice contained no emotional fluctuations. At this time, Xiaoqi no longer had the slightest pleasure in killing. Yu reading www.yuuganchu.com. She looked at the brother in front of her who didn't look up at herself at all, but stared at the screen of the swordfish killing machine, and felt a little strange in her heart. Brother, it seems to be different from before. And my brother's progress is so fast. She clearly remembered that she scored more than 90 points in all 3 rounds, which was also her normal score on easy difficulty, because in the battle, her brother had no ability to catch fish with her. But after 3 rounds, it took her longer and longer to get the S-kill. In the silent countdown, the 4th game between the siblings began. Xiaoqi still gave Xiaoyu 5 seconds, but the effect of these 5 seconds was not very big, because the swordfish appeared too slow at the beginning, and Xiaoyu's 12 sensory tentacles actually didn't play much role. Only when there are enough swordfish and fast enough that even Xiaoqi can't parry, can his terror be manifested. It's a pity that my sister is too strong, and every time I give myself the opportunity to show off my power, I only have the last 2 or 3 seconds. Of course, in the last few seconds, there were enough swordfish, and Xiaoqi had to concentrate all her energy on killing them, and she didn't notice Xiaoyu's ultimate move at all. After 5 seconds, Xiaoqi joined the battle. She did not choose to release water to her brother, but continued to concentrate all her energy on dealing with the swordfish. This is her insistence. After 57 seconds, Xiaoyu's 12 tentacles suddenly attacked, killing several swordfish instantly. 58 seconds. 59 seconds. Ding! It was the familiar ringtone that reminded me again, but this time, the agency didn't give the decision of skill again. The small characters on the screen light up. Competition is over. Xiaoqi, 94 points, Xiaoyu, 51 points. The result of this round, Xiaoqi won.